Hello, Goodbye is a song by the English rock band The Beatles. Written by Paul McCartney and credited to Lennon-McCartney. Backed by John Lennon's I Am the Walrus. It was issued as a non-album single in November 1967. The group's first release since the death of their manager, Brian Epstein. The single was commercially successful around the world, topping charts in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia and several other countries. McCartney later said that the lyrics take duality as the theme. The song originated when, in response to a question from Beatles aide Alistair Taylor about songwriting, McCartney sat down at a harmonium and asked Taylor to say the opposite of whatever he said. The completed song includes a musical coda, which was improvised by the Beatles when they were recording the track in October 1967. Unimpressed with the composition, Lennon pushed for I Am the Walrus to be the single's side. But McCartney and the band's producer, George Martin, opted for the more commercial-sounding Hello, Goodbye. The Beatles produced 3 promotional films for the song, one of which was shown on The Ed Sullivan Show in America. Due to the regulations against lip-syncing on British television, none of the clips were aired there. Hello, Goodbye has traditionally received a varied response from music critics. While some reviewers praise the song for its classic pop qualities, others deem it unadventurous by the Beatles' standards, and inconsequential. The track was included on the expanded US release of the Magical Mystery Tour soundtrack EP, and later appeared on compilation albums such as 1967 to 1971. McCartney has often performed Hello, Goodbye in concert, beginning with his Driving World Tour in 2002. James Last, Bud Shank, Alan Tucson, The Cure and the cast of Glee are among the acts who have also recorded the song. Background. Although the songwriting credit is Lennon-McCartney, Hello, Goodbye was written solely by Paul McCartney. The composition came about through an exercise in word association between McCartney and Alistair Taylor, an assistant of the Beatles' manager, Brian Epstein. It originated during a period when, following the completion of their album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band in April 1967, the Beatles typically embraced randomness and simplicity as part of the creative process. According to Taylor's recollection, he was visiting McCartney at his home in St John's Wood, London, and asked the Beatle how he went about writing a song. In response, McCartney took Taylor into the dining room, where they both sat at a harmonium. McCartney then began playing the instrument and asked Taylor to call out the opposite to each word. He happened to sing. Author Steve Turner writes of the result. And so it went, black and white. Yes and no. Stop and go. Hello and goodbye. Taylor later reflected, I've no memory at all of the tune. I wonder whether Paul really made up the melody to that song as he went along or whether it was running through his head already. Quote, talking in the 1990s to his official biographer, Barry Miles, McCartney said that the lyrics addressed duality, reflecting his astrological sign of Gemini. He added, it's such a deep theme in the universe. Duality, man-woman, black-white, ebony-ivory, high-low, right-wrong, up-down, hello-goodbye, that it was a very easy song to write. McCartney also said that, in Hello, Goodbye, he was promoting the more positive side of the duality. Among Beatles biographers, Ian MacDonald dates the composition to late September 1967. While Bob Spitz says it was written in time for the Our World international television broadcast in June that year. According to Spitz, McCartney suggested Hello, Goodbye as the Beatles' contribution to Our World. an honor that instead went to the John Lennon-composed "All You Need Is Love" composition. Hello Goodbye is in the key of C major and in 4/4 time. MacDonald describes the musical structure as characteristically scalar, and founded on a descending sequence in C, with a brief touchdown on A-flat as its only surprise. Musicologist Walter Everett writes that the bass line in the chorus is an inverted form of the descending scale, which is accentuated on the Beatles' recording by the lead guitar part. In Everett's estimation, much of Hello, Goodbye references previous Lennon-McCartney compositions. Over the verses, the parallel thirds in the vocal recall the band's unreleased song, Love of the Loved, among others. Melodically, the chorus is similar to the keyboard part on For No One, and the complementary vocal parts in the final verse recall Help. Everett also suggests that, early in Hello, Goodbye, McCartney appears to be imitating the vivi chord ambivalence of Strawberry Fields Forever. Everett describes the composition as derivative McCartney, for the most part, freshened up primarily through the use of phrase lengths that deviate from a standard 8 bars. Consistent with the song title, the lyrics comprise a series of antonyms, such as yes, no, black, white, and stay, go, with the narrative perspective alternating between first and second person. The composition also recalls George and Ira Gershwin's Let's Call the Whole Thing Off, following the third chorus. At 2:36 on the released recording, the bass line descends chromatically to mark the start of what musicologist Alan Pollock terms the first outro, and Everett calls a codetta. After this false ending, the song returns with a 45-second coda, which MacDonald identifies as a Maori finale, a mistake for Hawaiian aloha. Quote, the coda consists of a repeated musical phrase over a pedal point in C major, accompanied by the vocal refrain, Hela Heba Hello A. Recording. The Beatles began recording Hello, Goodbye at Emmy's Abbey Road Studios in October 1967. Towards the end of filming for their Magical Mystery Tour television special. The latter was a film project that McCartney had championed, in an effort to focus the group in the wake of Epstein's death that August. Under the working title, Hello Hello, the Beatles taped the basic track for the song on the 2nd of October. With George Martin producing the session and Jeff Emerick and Ken Scott as engineers. The lineup on the take selected for overdubs. Take 14 was McCartney on piano, Lennon on Hammond organ, George Harrison on maracas, and Ringo Starr on drums. The band members then added tambourine, conga drum and bongos over the coda. This last section of the song came about while the group were working in the studio. Lennon, who was otherwise highly critical of Hello, Goodbye, approved of the addition, saying, the best bit was the end, which we all ad-libbed in the studio, where I played the piano. Like one of my favorite bits on Ticket to Ride, where we just threw something in at the end. Quote, in McCartney's recollection, the coda didn't sound quite right until Emerick increased the reverberation on the tom-tom drums, at which point, it just came alive. Everett cites the Maori finale as an example of the Beatles' pioneering use of codas in their recordings. In this instance, they provided the cold ending followed by an unrelated coda, having similarly pioneered the fade-out fade-in coda at the end of Rain and Strawberry Fields Forever. The Beatles returned to the song on the 19th of October, 2 days after attending a memorial service for Epstein at the New London Synagogue on Abbey Road. At this session, Harrison added his lead guitar parts, treated with Leslie effect. McCartney recorded the lead vocal, and Lennon, McCartney and Harrison supplied backing vocals. Hand claps were also overdubbed, with 2 reduction mixes having been carried out since the 2nd of October, to free up space on the 4-track tape for these and later overdubs. The master take was now nominally take 16. This version of the song appeared on the 1996 Outtakes compilation Anthology 2. In his book The Unreleased Beatles, Richie Unterberger writes that Take 16 features a more active guitar line from Harrison, who answers McCartney's vocal phrasing over the opening verse with a series of descending fills. Also present on this version is a short guitar solo, which would be replaced on the official release by what Unterberger terms some inspired Paul Scat-tinged singing. Unterberger speculates that the removal of these guitar parts may have caused tension between McCartney and Harrison, anticipating the pair's disagreements regarding the lead guitarist's role on McCartney compositions such as Hey Jude and Two of Us over 1968-69. 2 violas were added to Hello, Goodbye at Abbey Road on the 20th of October. These string parts were played by classical musicians Kenneth Essex and Leo Birnbaum, and scored by Martin, who based the arrangement on a melody McCartney supplied on piano. McCartney overdubbed bass guitar on the 25th of October and, following a trip to Nice in France to film his Fool on the Hill segment for Magical Mystery Tour, added further bass to the track on the 2nd of November. A mono mix of Hello, Goodbye was completed that same day, and the stereo version on the 6th of November release. Hello, Goodbye was selected as the Beatles' single for the 1967 Christmas season, their first release since Epstein's death. A dismayed Lennon pushed for his composition, I Am the Walrus, to be the A-side instead, but he was overruled by McCartney and George Martin, on the grounds that Hello, Goodbye was the more commercial of the 2 tracks. Lennon remained dismissive of the song. He later said, Hello, Goodbye beat out I Am the Walrus, can you believe that? I began to submerge. Everett writes that, had I Am the Walrus been the A-side, quote, it would probably have encouraged Lennon to lead the Beatles to new heights, whereas the decision to choose Hello, Goodbye was one more nail in the Beatles' coffin. In Britain, Parlophone issued Hello, Goodbye, backed by I Am the Walrus, on the 24th of November 1967, with the catalogue number R5655. Within a day of its release, the record had sold over 300,000 copies there. It went on to top the national chart compiled by Record Retailer, later the UK Singles Chart, for 7 weeks, through to the 23rd of January 1968, giving the Beatles the longest run at number 1 on the chart since She Loves You, in 1963. In the process, the song became the group's 4th Christmas number 1 single in 5 years. For 3 weeks from the 27th of December 1967, the band held the top 2 positions in the UK, with the Magical Mystery Tour soundtrack EP trailing Hello, Goodbye. The single was released on the 27th of November in the United States as Capital 2056. It peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 3 weeks and became the band's 15th American chart topper. The single was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America on the 15th of December 1967. It was later listed by Billboard magazine as the band's 7th biggest U.S. chart hit. The single was successful in many other countries, topping charts in Australia, Canada, West Germany, Holland and Norway. It also peaked at number 2 in Ireland, Austria, Belgium and Switzerland. Hello, Goodbye was included on the American Magical Mystery Tour album, which Capitol Records compiled by adding 5 non-album singles tracks from 1967 to the 6 songs on the British double EP. In the Magical Mystery Tour film, which aired on British television on 26 December 1967, the song's coda plays over the end credits. Hello, Goodbye subsequently appeared on Beatles compilation albums such as 1967 to 1971. As part of AMI's policy of celebrating the 20th anniversary of each Beatles single, Hello, Goodbye was reissued in the UK in November 1987 and peaked at number 63 on the UK singles chart. Promotional films. The band made 3 promotional clips for Hello, Goodbye, filmed on 10 November 1967 at the Savile Theatre in London. The clips were directed by McCartney. The first one shows the Beatles dressed in their Sgt. Pepper uniforms, apart from a brief cutaway where the group are wearing their 1963-era matching collarless suits. In author John Wynn's description of the 3 clips, this version shows the Beatles performing the song against a psychedelic backdrop, while over the coda they are joined on the stage by female hula dancers. Starr is seen playing a miniature drum kit and, unusually, Lennon appears without his granny glasses. In the second clip, the Beatles mime to the song dressed in more conventional attire and with a stage backdrop depicting a rural setting. The third version combines footage shot during these 2 scenes with the band playing the song before what Wynn terms a glittery pastel backdrop. In the US, the first promo for Hello, Goodbye was premiered on The Ed Sullivan Show on 26 November. Author Mark Hartsgaard describes the film as a slapdash affair featuring the hula dances that was salvaged only by some ludicrously spastic dancing by Lennon. Music critic Robert Christgau was also unimpressed, speculating in the May 1968 issue of Esquire on the content of the Magical Mystery Tour film, which had yet to air in America. Christgau wrote, "But if Paul McCartney's work on the film clip of Hello Goodbye is any indication, we would be wise not to hope for too much." Quote, in his book Rock, Counterculture and the Avant-Garde, author Doyle Green finds it significant that Starr's miniature bass drum lacks the familiar Beatles logo, and he interprets the band waving to the viewer while dressed in the 1963 stage attire as the Beatles waving goodbye to the mop-top era and hello to the counterculture. In Britain, the Beatles ran foul of the Musicians' Union's ban on miming on television, with the first clip scheduled to premiere on the 23rd of November edition of Top of the Pops. George Martin mixed a version of the track without violas, since no musician was seen to be playing those instruments. The Beatles then allowed the BBC to film them at work editing Magical Mystery Tour on the 21st of November, in the hope that this new footage would replace any sections that contravened the ban. Instead, Top of the Pops aired the song over scenes from the band's 1964 film A Hard Day's Night for the 7th of December edition of the same show. The BBC ran a clip comprising still photographs mixed with some of the editing suite film, a combination that served as the promo for Hello, Goodbye throughout the remainder of its UK chart run. The clip included in the 1996 Beatles anthology video release consists of the Beatles' first Savile Theatre film, up until the song's coda, which incorporates footage from all 3 of the original promo films. The first of the original promos was included in the Beatles' 2015 video compilation 1, and all 3 were included in the 3-disc versions of the compilation, titled 1+. The BBC compiled clip appeared as a bonus feature on the 2012 DVD reissue of Magical Mystery Tour, under the title, Top of the Pops 1967. In May 2013, a Vox electric guitar used by Lennon during part of the filming for Hello, Goodbye sold for $408,000 at an auction in New York. Critical reception. Writing in December 1967, Richard Goldstein of the New York Times said that Hello, Goodbye sounds like a B-side, and described it as interesting but subordinate. In his single review for Melody Maker, Nick Jones wrote, "Superficially it's a very ordinary Beatles record without cascading sitars and the involved, weaving hallucinogenic sounds that we've grown to love so much. However, all the Beatles' soul and feeling is shining through." Derek Johnson of the NME welcomed the simplicity of Hello, Goodbye, describing it as supremely commercial, and the answer to those who feel the Beatles are going to way out. Cashbox's reviewer said that the song's closing section was brilliant, and wrote, "Minimum of words, minimum of melody and practically no subject at all. Yet the Beatles have a new side that packs a panchromatic rainbow of sound into the narrow limits that Lennon and McCartney have chosen to work with." In his book Revolution in the Head, Ian MacDonald views the track as blandly catchy, and comments that its long stay at number 1 in Britain says more about the sudden decline of the singles chart than the quality of the song itself. Rob Sheffield of Rolling Stone considers that, at this stage in the career, the Beatles didn't need to push. They could have hit number 1 with the tape of themselves blowing their noses, which, he suggests, would have been catchier than both Hello, Goodbye and the band's next single, Lady Madonna. Writing for Rough Guides, Chris Ingham describes Hello, Goodbye as a harmless, facile word chord play that kept the far more challenging Walrus from being the A-side of the Beatles' first post-Epstein single. In the opinion of cultural commentator Stephen D. Stark, the song has the catchiest of tunes but insipid lyrics, which, had the Beatles' two principal songwriters been collaborating in the manner of previous years, Lennon would have insisted that McCartney rework. Peter Doggett labels it commercial but rather inconsequential. 3 minutes of contradictions and meaningless juxtapositions, with a tune that was impossible to forget. In a 2005 review of the Magical Mystery Tour album, Sputnik Music lauded the song for encapsulating everything that made the Beatles such a great pop band, and praised its piano line, Starr's drumming, and the coda. Writing for AllMusic, Richie Unterberger names Hello, Goodbye as one of the huge, glorious, and innovative singles on Magical Mystery Tour, while Billboard's Chris Payne rates the track among the band's most perfect pop songs. Scott Plagenho of Pitchfork Media cites it as an example of how McCartney excelled at selling simplistic lyrics that risk seeming cloying, although he adds, the kaleidoscopic Carnival Ride melody and interplay between lead and backing vocals ensure it's a much better record than it is a song. Quote, in the NME's 2015 list of the 100 greatest Beatles songs, as selected by other musicians, Hello, Goodbye was chosen by The Cure and ranked 91st. Ultimate Classic Rock website places the track at number 45 on its list of the top 50 Beatles songs, while Rolling Stone ranks it last on the magazine's 100 Greatest Beatles Songs list, with the editor remarking, McCartney never claimed that the irresistibly bouncy Hello, Goodbye was his most profound songwriting moment. Quote, in 2006, the track appeared at number 36 in a similar list compiled by Mojo, accompanied by commentary from Alan McGee, who described it as the greatest ever pop song, bar none. Hello, Goodbye is ranked 76th by Stephen Spinazy and Michael Lewis in their book 100 Best Beatles Songs, where the authors call it a classic and a fine, fresh, fun piece of pop. Cover versions and McCartney live performances. James Last, the Holly Ridge Strings, Bud Shank and the Soulful Strings were all among the artists who covered Hello, Goodbye in the year following its release in 1967. Alan Toussaint, with whom McCartney worked briefly on his and Wings' 1975 album Venus and Mars, released a version of the song in 1989. More recent covers include recordings by Dwight Twilley and the band Ash, and a novelty version by Looney Tunes characters credited to Bugs and Friends. The cast of the US television show Glee released a recording of Hello, Goodbye as the opening track of their 2010 album Glee. The Music, Volume 3 Showstoppers. This version became a hit when issued as a single. In 2014, The Cure recorded the song with McCartney's son James, for inclusion on the multi-artist compilation The Art of McCartney. Classic Rock magazine described it as sufficiently clattery and love cats-ish to escape comparisons with the original. Evanescence's co-founder and lead vocalist Amy Lee included a cover of Hello, Goodbye on her 2016 children's album Dream Too Much, released exclusively on Amazon Music. McCartney has performed Hello, Goodbye on many of his tours as a solo artist. These include 2002's Driving World Tour and 2003's Back in the World Tour, when he opened his concerts with the song, and the On the Run Tour in 2011-12. In addition, throughout his 1989-90 World Tour, McCartney segued the coda onto the end of Put It There. This medley was included on McCartney's 1990 triple album Dripping the Live Fantastic, while a full live rendition of Hello, Goodbye appeared on Back in the U.S. in 2002. Personnel. According to Ian MacDonald, The Beatles, Paul McCartney, double-tracked lead vocal, backing vocal, piano, bass, bongos, conga. John Lennon, backing vocal, lead guitar, Hammond organ. George Harrison, backing vocal, lead guitar. Ringo Starr, drums, maracas, tambourine, backing vocal, overcoder. Additional musicians and production: Kenneth Essex, viola, Leo Birnbaum, viola, George Martin, producer, Jeff Emerick, sound engineer, Ken Scott, sound engineer. Charts and certifications. Notes. Citations. Sources. Full lyrics for the song at the Beatles' official website. Cover of published sheet music for Hello, Goodbye. Northern Songs. Cover of published sheet music for Hello, Goodbye. McLean.